Hello, I just want to go through some very simple things that Mounce doesn't really cover that are very, very practical. It's really the end of the story, so to speak, of when you get to a point where you're using Greek to do some exegesis in a Bible class or for a sermon, you need to be able to negotiate very quickly about whereabouts you're going to go in your passage so that you're not stumbling through the Greek New Testament to find out it takes you too long to get there, to get to your passage before you start looking and doing exegesis and all the work that you have to do to unwrap the text, so to speak. So I've got here the Greek New Testament, 4th edition. I suggested to you that you get the more updated one, which is the 5th edition, one by Kurt Allen, Matthew Black, and Martini. And this is really useful because it's got a dictionary in it. That's important that I mentioned in the syllabus, the first syllabus, that you get that. So you've got the whole thing in one. The key to it, though, is being able to do we've mentioned it in passing as Mounce, but we need to make sure we negotiate the capital letters, because the designation in terms of the chapters and the books are actually written in capital letters, and so therefore when you come across here, for example, Katayoinan, then you need to know exactly what you're dealing with so you can do it quickly, Katamatheon and so forth. Those letters are actually in capitals. So therefore, what it means is two things. You need to be aware of the movement then in your mind from the lowercase to the uppercase, to the capitals from the lowercase writing that we're doing. And to do that, then the first thing would be to make sure that you've got that alphabet memorized, as I said to you initially, in groups of 4, so that you work it: alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, psi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, upsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega. That's how I've done it in groups of 4. And then you have the internal mechanism of knowing how it actually connects with the English alphabet. So you're fairly straightforward from that standpoint. So that, for example, if you're going to look up a word in English now that's begins with K, and you had to do it according to the alphabet, then you'd know, you're somewhere just over a third along with where K is, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, and so forth. And you can do that with the Greek, because that's going to help you. Obviously, the first few things are alpha, beta, gamma, delta. Now, gamma's going to throw you a bit, because that's right at the beginning, and not further on, as in the English alphabet. So from the first thing is just to make sure that you memorize that, so that when you have to look up a word in the dictionary, you're not stumbling around at the back here and you're looking for a zeta, and so what you do is you think, that's a Z, so you go right back to the end of the dictionary looking under Z, looking for Z, and you're around omega and you're thinking, where am I? Well, if you know your Greek alphabet very thoroughly, then what? Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, so it's right up the front, not toward the back. And likewise, there's other things in terms of the differences between the two E's and so on, and the two O's, omega and omicron and so forth. So really you need to know very, very thoroughly then the alphabet. So you go over it all the time so that you know it, and then you can easily negotiate the dictionary, because that's the key to it. It's hard enough to actually try and track down some of these words, so you don't get stuck with hang on a minute, where exactly am I? Theta, well, that's toward the end of the English alphabet, so again you're going further down the Greek, the dictionary towards the end looking for theta, when it's really more up front: alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta. So you do it from that standpoint. And then the other thing to remember is just the difference, so to speak, in the way that some of the capitals are, in terms of the way that the way that they look, so that you're familiar with them. I've put them up there so you can see, and I suggest that you go there, and what you do is you just say each letter of the alphabet, and at the same time look at it as a capital, so that when you come across then a katayoinan or katamakon, you're looking immediately, because when you go in this Greek Testament, there's still a tendency to look at it and to be scared because you see all this Greek there. But what you need to do initially is you know what you're looking for. What you're looking for is the top, because that's going to tell you what book it is, right? So when you know what book it is, if you're in Luke, then the next thing is you look to the right and you see the chapter, and then you look down the verse. So just in a few seconds, just like you do with an English text, you can find the book. You just hand this to somebody a good example is to hand it to somebody who doesn't know Greek, and they look at this and say, well, what is going on here? How do you negotiate this? Well, we're negotiating now in the trees, in all the different grammatical aspects of it. We're now nearly 2/3 through the basic grammar. But just to remind you that as we start negotiating it, go back to simple things. In other words, then you know the alphabet most thoroughly, and that you're able then to look at these books in the New Testament. You open it, and you're not afraid whatsoever. Yes, Katayanen, you're looking straight away, but you're not looking at the text. What you're looking at is the top, and then on the right-hand side, that's going to tell you that's chapter 1. Then you need to chapter so-and-so. For example, I've got, just to give you an example, I've looked at Matthew chapter 11:28. So therefore, I immediately, Katamathayon, there I go, I look to the left or right, depending where it is on the page, chapter 11, look down verse 28, I've now found it. That's basically all I'm saying, is that you get there as quickly as you can, because you've got to deal with it. You've got to deal with it now in terms of translation. And what helps you in your translation as you're looking at it is the words that you've obviously memorized and known, the vocabulary and the grammar and so on. But then you've got the added element of the dictionary.